Good morning, and welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching from home, we are so glad you are here. My name is Kelly, and my pronouns are she, her. I have served on the board in various capacities over the last few years, and I will be retiring from that soon. And I'm also the head of the hospitality team here at San Gabriel, which brings us all to our coffee and conversation. We need help. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. There are over 1,000 UU congregations in the United States. All of us together are working for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Sustaining each other here in community is the first step down the long road of that important work. If you would like to know more about us and learn about upcoming events, please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. We especially welcome new visitors. When it is time for the offertory, you need not worry about contributing. If this is your first time with us today, your presence is your gift to us. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. And we have some announcements. I left my announcements page, so I'm going to grab that. First of all, happy beginning of Pride Month. Yay. And we have a few general announcements for us in particular. We have our congregational meeting coming up next Sunday, so everybody be aware of that. All voting members are asked to attend the meeting. We require a quorum, which means we need as many people here as we can get. And we have the nominations for our new board coming in, which is going to be President Sarah Smith, Vice President Keith Hutchinson, Treasurer John Shaw, Secretary Joe Neschheim, Trustee Vivian Stuyvesant, and Trustee Returning Robert Smallwood, Trustee Returning Chuck Collins. We also have a book communion coming up on that same day, so Reverend Jamie invites us all to bring a book to give away at next week's service that has been a part of your spiritual journey. If it's in particular to the UU tradition, that would be great, but any book that you think was a part of your spiritual journey. And then you will be taking home a different book from someone else. We're going to do a book swap. So are you thinking about being a UU official? We have a new members San Gabriel orientation meeting. So I was asked to stress that if you've been to an orientation before and feel like you need to be reoriented, you're also welcome to attend. Lunch is going to be provided, and we can also arrange for childcare. So we definitely need an RSVP from people so we know how much lunch to make or bring or buy, and also how many folks we need to arrange childcare for. There is a movie night June 6th at the Georgetown Public Library. This is the SGUUF film series, and it's going to present the movie Loving, which is a 2016 film. We always need stuff for the little free pantry, and all of the announcements can also be found on this handy dandy announcements sheet. So that's all I've got for announcements.
Thank you. And good morning. Yeah, wonderful. All right. Our chalice lighting words this morning. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light that we are and the light that we need to explore the darkness. Let us greet this day in song. Our opening hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life, in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. Lyrics will be projected.
Our affirmation is an expression of our covenant with one another. Please read after me. The words will be projected. The doctrine of this church is love.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
So now we have our Wonder Box moment.
Sorry, I messed up.
Okay.
I messed up. It was me. But I'm gonna, before we do Wonder Box, I'm going to do our call to worship.
Perfect.
And then we're going to do the Wonder Box.
Very exciting. Okay. Here we go.
All right. Yes, sir. Is that better? All right. Anybody out there still can't hear me? All right. Is anybody wishing they could hear me less? All right. A couple. All right. Fair enough. Our call to worship this morning is an excerpt from a letter by Reverend David E. Bumbaugh that he wrote in 2001 entitled, Toward a Humanist Vocabulary of Reverence. As an observer of and participant in contemporary Unitarian Universalism, I have found myself wondering what has happened to the humanist witness among us. How has it happened that we who once seemed to set the agenda for religious discourse now find ourselves increasingly on the defensive, if not engaged in a monologue? I would submit that to some degree at least we are talking to ourselves because we have allowed ourselves to be defined by the opposition. We have dismissed traditional religion as an atavistic aberration. We have given up the hope of a constructive dialogue. We have manned the ramparts of reason and are prepared to defend the citadel of the mind against renewed superstition until the very end. But In the process of defending, we have lost the vocabulary of reverence, the ability to speak of that which is sacred, holy, of ultimate importance to us. The language which would allow us to enter once more into critical dialogue with the rest of the religious community. If this be so, then the recovery of a vital vocabulary of reverence is a task of great urgency for those of us who cherish the humanism tradition.
Now we are going to have a Wonderbox moment. So Karina did record, she is on vacation, but she did record a Wonderbox for us. And let's help one another learn and grow. Let's share our, oh, I'm supposed to have a box, y'all. I'm awesome at this. Oh, that's it. What do you think is in the box? I know Karina put something in here because she told me before she left, even though it doesn't sound like it. Oh yeah, there's something in there. Do you guys have any guesses? I never know what's in this box. I always just say rocks, but it's obviously not rocks this time. So, all right. It is, I do not know what this is, but it's this. So it looks like a question, a weird question mark, though. It has like a little slash through it. And on one side it's blue, and on the other side it's kind of like a reddish pink. So I have more wondering after opening the box than before opening the box. Good job, Karina. Not even here, keeping us on our toes. All right, so I think you guys are going to play our Wonderbox. I love the wiener dog. I don't know if you guys know how I feel about wiener dogs, but it's a lot.
I Wonder, written by Annika Harris, illustrated by John Rowe, published by Four Elephants Press. Eva loves to look for the moon. It follows her from place to place, disappearing behind trees and mountains and then appearing again someplace new. Look, Mama, there it is. The moon looks so beautiful in the sky. How do you think it follows us, Eva? Eva thinks about it, but she just can't figure it out. It's okay to say, I don't know, says her mother. When we don't know something, we get to wonder about it. I wonder if the moon and the earth are friends, asks Eva. Her mother smiles. I like that idea. But Mama, how does the moon really stay close to us? There is an invisible force called gravity that pulls all the things in the universe together, Eva's mother explains. Gravity keeps the moon close to the earth, and it keeps the planets close to the sun, too. They circle around like this. Eva understands a little better, but then she starts to wonder, Mama, where does gravity come from? I don't know, Eva. Nobody really knows for sure. And when no one knows the answer to something, it's called a mystery. A mystery is something for everyone to wonder about together. How fun! Eva imagines herself wondering about gravity together with all of the people in the world. Eva watches the moon disappear behind the clouds as she walks, excited to see where it will appear next. How many grains of sand are in the whole world, Mama? I wonder about that too. There are trillions and trillions of grains of sand, but nobody knows exactly how many. Eva tries to think about all the sand in the whole world. It feels so big that I can't fit it all in my imagination. It makes me feel dizzy, like I'm falling. I know what you mean, her mother agrees, and I'm sure other people feel that way too. Eva walks down another path looking for the moon, and a little orange butterfly appears. Then she notices there are butterflies everywhere. Mama, where did all of these butterflies come from? These butterflies have been flying around for a few days, but they started out as little caterpillars, and those caterpillars came from eggs, and those eggs came from other butterflies. There are cycles all around us, with one thing ending and another beginning. Things are always changing. Can you think of other things that change? Clouds, and frogs and me. Later, Eva wonders, Mama, what was here before all the butterflies and frogs and clouds, before everything? I don't know, answers her mother. It's another mystery. I like trying to imagine what was here before the beginning of everything. What do you think was here? And Eva says, smiling, I don't know. She thinks about it for a long time, and then she has an idea. I wonder if there were feelings. As she walks home, Eva sees the moon again, glowing brightly above the roof of her house. Let's go inside and look for the moon through the window. We live with some big mysteries. When we come upon one, we're given a little gift. Every mystery is something for all of us to wonder about together. What do you wonder about? The end.
I don't think I could have asked for a better segue than that. So, fun fact, last time I was in the San Gabriel pulpit was February 6th, 2011. Y'all were holding services in the Sun City Rec Center and had not yet called your first minister. So, just curious, how many of y'all were here back in 2011? All right, we got a few. Nice, that's awesome. All right. Well, before we get started, I want to give you a heads up about how I preach. And so I want you to think about what we're going to do together this morning. We're taking a hike. And while we take that hike, I'm going to sprinkle some breadcrumbs. I'm going to point out some rabbit holes. But I don't want you to get fixated on those. I just want you to stay with me on the hike. Now, in the back of the church, there's some QR codes on the tables and one up on the bulletin board. And when you scan it, you can pull up the full text of my sermon. And you can go dive down as many rabbit holes as you want or follow breadcrumb trails to your heart's content. Is that fair? I just don't want anybody getting anxious like, oh, I missed the reference. It's there. Just stay with me. All right, cool. Let's dive into Reverend Bumbaugh's letter. We have dismissed traditional religion as an atavistic aberration. We have given up the hope of a constructive dialogue. We have manned the ramparts of reason and are prepared to defend the citadel of the mind against a renewal of superstition until the very end. Powerful words. We're going to walk through these three assertions and see if we can't use them to chart a way forward, a way for the evolution of humanism. First, we have dismissed traditional religion as an atavistic aberration. Atavistic. That's a good word. I'll tell you this. When I was a self-righteous atheist in college, that word was one of my favorite insults. It was bringing out the big guns. It was a sniper rifle ready to take aim at anyone who dared to bring out some of that dead old white man stuff. Now, I've done a lot of work on my self-righteousness, and along the way, I dropped the label atheist because I realized that it was just the antithesis of the same childish approach to God that I had rejected when I left the Christian church of my childhood. Are you all familiar with Hegel's dialectic? So we've got the thesis, that's the old belief. We've got the antithesis, that's the counter belief. And the new thing born, the synthesis, is born out of the tension held between those two opposing poles. Well, in my life, traditional American-style evangelical Christianity was the thesis. Atheism was the antithesis, and what we're here to talk about this morning, the evolution of humanism, that's as good a name as any for the synthesis that I'm working through and that I'm inviting you to be a part of. Now, first, we need to acknowledge one of the big elephants in the room. Our dismissal of religion is far from even-handed. Am I right? Are we as dismissive of Buddhism or indigenous religions or Taoism? I mean, heck, we've even got a soft spot for the Bhagavad Gita, right? Secular humanism, as we experience it, grew directly and distinctly out of a rejection of Western Christianity, and in true colonialist fashion, it was dismissive and disdainful, and by default just included all other religions in its rejection of dogma. But its target was always clear. A Christian church so unhealthy and splintered into denominations and corrupted by egocentric and ethnocentric and nationalistic biases that it had become unrecognizable. Let me step sideways and put it to you like this. The teachings of Jesus were so profound and hard and so far ahead of their time that we spent 2,000 years turning him into a god, into an idol, as an excuse to ignore the true implications of those teachings. And you can still see it today. But we're going to come back to that. All right. So, secular humanism was the antithesis that grew up in opposition to a corrupt church that claimed sole ownership of the right to define and determine what the terms good and evil meant and who was eligible to be considered good. So some natural philosophers and others put their heads and their hearts together, and they said, nope, you do not have to subscribe to these metaphysical belief systems in order to be a good person, to have ethics, to have morality. What they were really saying is, you, church, you have become immoral, and we will no longer allow you to lie to our faces about what morality is or where it comes from. Your moral bankruptcy makes you ineligible for such a task. And they were right. For the most part, they were spot on. I mean, the prosperity gospel, just war theory, and a bunch of similar garbage had been produced and marketed and sold and justified. So these humanist forebears doubled down hard on a purely materialist view of the universe and a view of humanity that looks a lot like what we think of today as Homo economicus. Beings primarily of reason who also happen to, have bodies and occasionally feelings. Now, I'm going to leave this thread about the nature of humans and the concept of reason dangling here for just a bit, and we're going to circle back to it. Our second touchstone line: we have given up the hope of a constructive dialogue. I mean, I know this was written 22 years ago, but could that line be more relevant today? We've given up the hope of a constructive dialogue. Why? Because we are guilty of the same error that derailed our forebears. The same transgression that birthed colonialism and racism and all the other isms we've been fighting over at the ledge this year. Dehumanization. We, my religiously liberal friends and colleagues, have stopped believing that they are really people. We can talk with people. We can negotiate with people, but not with them. Have you seen them? Have you heard them? How could we possibly have a constructive dialogue with them? Hurt people hurt people. But when we stop seeing those hurt people as people, when we vilify them and when we other them, we draw a line in the sandy desert bottom of our heart and we put them on the other side of it. We dehumanize them. Father Richard Rohr, by far my favorite contemporary Catholic theologian, says this: our real problem is our universal pattern of scapegoating and sacrificing others. And the first step on that path to scapegoating and sacrificing is dehumanization. And while our learned, liberal, educated version of it may seem more subtle, it is still the same disease masquerading as a cure. In his recent book, The Persuaders, Anand Giridharadas evaluates what solutions exist to this divided and divisive culture problem. His answer ought not to surprise anyone in a UU congregation, but probably will. Let's start like this. Anyone here done small group ministry work, Chalice Circle, Wellspring? Show of hands. Oh, just a few of y'all. Shout out. What's the core of those practices? Listening, I heard it. I think I heard it. I'm going to pretend I did. Does that work for y'all? All right, here we go. I heard what I wanted to hear. I'm going to move on. Okay, there we go. Listening. Wow, right? When we learn to quiet down and listen to another person with curiosity, attention, and compassion, that's amazing, right? And when we get to be listened to, not based on what we had to say or how well we said it, but just acknowledged as a being who is worth being listened to. That forms some powerful bonds. It invites us to open up some locked doors inside ourselves, to share a little deeper, to be a little more vulnerable. And that's what Anand Giridharadas and his team found. The most transformative technique of modern political and social activism is deep canvassing. Some early experiments started in California after the LGBTQIA+ community lost a ballot initiative. They just went to their neighbors who had voted against the initiative and said, why? But here's the catch. They actually wanted to know. They wanted to understand why. They showed up ready and willing to listen and to learn what they didn't know. They couldn't understand how someone could vote against their right to marry in this case, so they went to those people earnestly, humbly, and said, help me understand. You want to know the magic part? Those conversations changed hearts and minds. People who had voted against the ballot initiative now had a single positive affirmative, usually one-time connection to a person directly affected by the legislation. And now they saw those people as people, not as an abstract concept or a category or a threatening other or an existential cultural danger, but as people like them trying to live their best life and get by in this crazy world. I'm going to pull one other thread into this pattern, one that bridges between our dismissal of tradition and our willingness to humanize those different from us. This example comes from a book called The Cosmic Serpent by anthropologist Jeremy Narby. Did you know that modern thoracic surgery, including open heart surgery and organ replacement, would be impossible without Amazonian shaman? Curare, an indigenous plant medicine unique to the Amazon, was originally developed by shaman to coat arrow tips for hunting monkeys in the jungle. You see, if you shoot a monkey with an untreated arrow, its muscles and tails convulse upon impact, leaving the monkey up in a tree and out of reach of the hunting party. Now, according to the shaman, they learned the recipe from the plants themselves during their vision quests. Now, of course, the scientists who discovered the compound isolated the active ingredients and figured out how to synthesize versions of it in a lab. They framed it like this: we discovered this compound from the natural cornucopia of the Amazon. Now, the truth was more like this: we learned of this compound from our siblings who live in the Amazon and whose relationship to that place, their medicinal knowledge, and the origins of that knowledge we simply do not understand. Narby's anti-colonial, anti-racist position is this: we should take indigenous people at their word instead of assuming that their cultural and mythological belief systems discredit their ability to have a viable perspective. In the words of Dr. Martin Shaw, what is superstition to some is cause and effect to others. In the more familiar words of Arthur C. Clarke, I know y'all have heard this one, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But we have had a very one-way interpretation of what constitutes an advanced technology, haven't we? For us, technologies like machines and microchips, it's not like meditation or entheogens. This is the colonial chauvinism of our culture, and it has infected even our humanism. Now, that's enough of a teaser in that direction. Rabbit hole sprinkled with breadcrumbs. We have manned the ramparts of reason and are prepared to defend the citadel of the mind against a renewal of superstition until the very end. Amen. Now, if you believe that you are reason and that your body and your feelings are just sort of these incidental things you have to drag around, what else can you do? You must man the ramparts. But luckily for us, the founders of humanism, despite doubling down on reason, left us a really important fulcrum for the next phase of our evolution. An imperative to follow the science wherever it leads us. For our purposes today, there are three critical aspects of that imperative that we need to consider. First, our relationship with the unknown. Second, contemporary findings of external science. And third, the possibilities of developing an internal science. So let's start with the unknown. Not just the unknown, but perhaps the unknowable. I'd like to hear from you all some things, some small things, or big things that you think about as unknowns or unknowable. Now, Reverend Jamie said that y'all were a call and response kind of people. Now, she did not lie to me, did she? Did I lose everybody already? All right. Afterlife, right? Like, man, what happens at death? Man, that's been killing us for thousands of years.
How big is the universe?
Oh, how big is it? Yeah. How old is it? How old is the universe? How old is we? Black holes. Do they only swallow information or light? How did it get here? I love how big the it is in that question, right? You could use it as like an it tree, the big its or the little its, and it doesn't get less interesting as you dig down. All right, look, even if we acknowledge that our practice of science can help us learn things, help us explore things that were unknown and make them known, explore things that were previously unknowable and make them knowable, there is still a lot of unknown out there. More unknown than known out there. That brings us right home to the crux, the fulcrum of our scientific imperative. Because science says, very literally, we know nothing. Even scientific laws are only as good as the very next experiment that disproves them. Some of us like to use science as a tool for generating certainty and stability. I'm telling you, that's nonsense. Science is a tool for discovering and grappling with the unknown. Using it for generating certainty is a misapprehension of the entire program. Yet, of course, you might say we have built spaceships and planes and cars and factories and generators and robots and computers, and we've made them more or less reliable. Isn't that a kind of certainty? For sure. Yeah, science is a tool, and in combination with reason and motivation, it can give us a certain kind of circumscribed practical mastery over our immediate environment, and that is super cool. But the heart of science is not in that moment of applied engineering that reliably solves a practical problem. The heart of science, the soul of science, is in that next step out into the dark abyss of the unknown. It is the courage to explore that darkness with the tiny focused penlight that is the scientific method. Now, I want to plant a seed here because this tendency to take a tool that was designed for discovery and to try to use it to produce certainty, that's not just a science problem. It's also, I think, a religion problem and a spirituality problem. I think that we need to remaster the art of not knowing. I think we need to rediscover what it feels like to say, I don't know, not as angry denial or shameful admission, but I don't know as an act of wisdom. I don't know as the proper statement of a true elder. All right, let's grab our next thread, see if we can weave it in. Science, in this case psychology and neuroscience, have also taught us some things about ourselves that are relevant to the evolution of humanism. So first, we know from brain damage studies, if the part of your brain that produces emotion is damaged, but your cognitive facilities are perfectly intact, you will wither and die without the daily intervention of healthy, fully functioning human beings. Conversely, if your ability to think complicated front of the brain thoughts is severely damaged, but your emotion centers are fine, you can lead a pretty normal life, although with certain circumscriptions around your job capabilities. So when we add those two facts to a bunch of other science that's been done in these fields, one thing becomes abundantly clear. To paraphrase Brené Brown, we aren't thinking beings that happen to feel. We are feeling beings who happen to think. Now, this is not to devalue rationality. It is to accurately place rationality within the internal ecology of human beings. Now, here's another provisional finding of the research. There is a surprising relationship between language and emotion. You've heard that old saw about 50 different Inuit words for snow. When asked, most Americans can only identify 3 emotions that they feel: happy, sad, angry. Now, emotion researchers like Mark Brackett have done a lot of research, and they've made up a grid of 100 clearly identifiable emotions. They put those in a grid that goes from less pleasant to more pleasant on the horizontal, and from low energy to high energy on the vertical. And their research found that increasing people's emotional vocabulary, i.e., just teaching them these words and what they mean, enabled people to experience more nuanced versions of emotion in their lives. I want you to think about that for a minute. If the only words you know are happy, sad, angry, then every time you have feelings, every time those complicated, nuanced, delicate feelings start to work up inside your body, you are forced to stick them in one of those 3 holes. The simple act of building a vocabulary of feeling enables you to experience more nuanced feeling states, like apprehensive, or sullen, or cheerful, or complacent. Language matters, and it actually opens up our capacity to experience ourselves. Okay, one more. This one from an advanced meditation study, and I do have to tell you that picking only one advanced meditation study was like torture for me. But I'll leave you with a rabbit hole you can dive down. It's the book Altered Traits by Goleman and Davidson. Here's the experiment. I put your hand inside a special glove that gets very cold very fast. Now, it's enough to cause significant discomfort and pain, but not enough to physically hurt your body. Now, I put your hand in the glove, I put you in the machine, and I give you a warning in a few minutes in advance, and I continue to monitor you a few minutes afterwards. For the normal Westerner, this is what happens. I put you in the machine, it's a PET scan machine. I warn you that the pain is coming. You spend the next 3 minutes suffering, anticipation and anxiety about the coming pain. The pain lights up, causes a cascade through the brain of a whole bunch of other stuff. The pain ends, and you spend the next 3 minutes reliving the pain, re-experiencing it, and keeping your brain all lit up with these what we typically call negative emotions. Now, let me tell you what happens to advanced meditators in this scenario. Nothing. All right, that's not adequately descriptive. When they're experiencing the pain, you can see the pain centers of the brain light up. But that's it. There's nothing before. There's no spin-off activity, no anxiety leading up to the pain, and no re-experiencing the pain in memory afterwards. I just want you to reflect for a minute on how radically your life would change if you only had to live every painful thing in it one time. No anxious anticipation of what painful thing will or might or could happen. No reliving or re-experiencing that pain over and over again as a story or a grievance or a trauma. Holy cow. What would it be like to live like that? There are those among us who know they seem pretty cool with it and quite willing to share what they've learned. All right, so that's it for external science. What about internal science? Is such a thing even possible? If you've heard the Dalai Lama speak on this subject, I think he's pretty compelling on the idea that the same pen light in the darkness use of the scientific method that we talked about earlier can be applied to our internal perceptual states. Of course, there are challenges. Just to give one example, if I want to replicate a physics experiment, I can systematically validate the specifications and tolerances on my measurement devices. I can ensure that my setup's identical to the original and functional terms. But when we are doing internal science, we're each locked in our own lab. Right? We're forced to rely on intersubjective instead of objective definitions of tools and processes and outcomes. Now, for the hardcore materialists among us, the gap I just described feels like an unbridgeable chasm. I don't think it is nearly as wide or deep as it is reliant upon something fundamental that was damaged by the same immature corruption that led to the establishment of secular humanism in the first place. Trust. Trust. That's a tough one, right? I mean, that Machiavelli guy really messed us up on trust, didn't he? I mean, not to mention like Plato with the Ring of Gyges. I mean, look at marketing budgets these days. Who has space left for trust? Here's the truth. Nobody who remains stuck in the cycle of anxious anticipation and resentful rumination has space for trust. There's just too much possibility to worry about and too much trauma to relive, and ain't nobody got time for that. Trust is harder than science. Science lets you bring your pen light, small and feeble as it is. Trust requires you to turn off the pen light, stick it in your pocket, and step forward anyway. Trust is like faith. So this begs the question, isn't that what we started this whole secular humanism revolution to get away from? To get away from faith? To get away from trust? I hope not, and I don't think so. We started it because our trust had been betrayed by those who were sworn to protect it. Our trust had been betrayed by those who were sworn to protect it. They failed to do their own internal work and failed to grow into the wise elders that we both needed and deserved. Perhaps Jesus was such a wise elder. It's too bad so many of his disciples and followers couldn't hold up the side. They abused and hoarded their power and their prestige at our expense, and then tried to sell it back to us for a profit. By breaking our trust, they disabled our most profound superpower, our ultra-social capacity for collaboration and communication. If we reclaim that superpower, we can not only do internal science together, a science we might call religion, a science we might call spirituality, a science we might even call a mystical science of a reborn mystical humanism. But no matter what we call it, we can use it to mature into a generation of elders capable of remaking our world into a place that we're actually proud to hand to the next generation. Our second hymn is We Laugh, We Cry. We're going to be doing verses 1 and 4 of number 354 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. The lyrics will be projected. Now, I'm going to let Kelly lead us in Joys and Sorrows because she knows how y'all do this. I'm going to pretend that she does, and we'll just roll with that.
It's on. Oh, it is on.
I'm Eric, and my pronouns are he, him, and I believe I misgendered your reverend as a she, not a they, during the service, so that's my sorrow. And my joy is, thank you all so much for having me today. I have loved coming to get and spend time with you, so thank you.
So I will come around with the microphone for Joys and Sorrows, and then typically I think you would drop the little blue stones as we go into this. So I'm going to look for hands, joys and sorrows. Does anybody have something they'd like to share today? All right. It's all right.
I'm Linda Hansen, and I wanted to tell you all that I spoke to John Walker this past week. John has been a long-time member of this fellowship, and he's very ill at home right now. I think John would appreciate a call from those of you who know him. I think he's very lonely because he does live by himself in Sun City. I am concerned about his health, and I think that any messages of hope and faith and compassion that you could give to him would be very welcome. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Clara Dugan, and I just wanted to say if you could leave John Walker's phone number at the back table, that would be very helpful. And I just wanted to give an update on my mother-in-law, Clarice. Things are looking wonderful. Last exam was absolutely no sign of cancer left, although she does have a raging infection that's finally been cultured properly, and she's doing very well. But as with John, I think she's a little lonely, so anybody who wants to take a visit, I'm sure she would really enjoy it.
Along the line of John's illness, I wanted to mention that one of our members, Jay McMillan, who is an artist and has adorned our walls a good bit over the last year with wonderful art. Jay had neck surgery on Friday out at Lakeway at the Baylor Scott and White hospital there. And the last I heard, maybe some of you have heard more recently from Chris, his partner, Chris Vitera, that he came through the surgery well. But he has been struggling with his mobility, and so I know he's happy to be past that experience. That's Jay McMillan.
I'm Linda Hansen again, and I'm very honored to have with me today a member of the Wesleyan who is a retired Methodist minister. He is visiting today. His name is Bernie. Bernie?
Not Sanders.
Sandberg. Sandberg. I kept calling him Sanders, but he is.
I've never been to Vermont.
Bernie is a wonderful friend, and I'm just so devoted to him, and I'm so glad he's here visiting.
I just said that because I drove my car to bring her here. But you may know some of my cousins. Frank Sanders is married to Kay Sanders. Kay is a distant cousin of mine living here. And Kay, you're here. I hadn't spotted you. I knew that Billy is in another state that I've never been to. I'm in a state of confusion.
All right. Oh, here we go.
Hi, my name is Anthony Garcia, he, him pronouns. I just want to celebrate that I landed my first internship out of college. So that's fun. I got a paying job through August, so that's good. Yeah.
All right. Do you want a little? I'm gonna let.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just have a paying internship through August, which is nice because I've been out of a job since I graduated from college. So it's good. Thank you.
Sometimes these are tricky. All right, do we have anybody else? I have a joy. It's officially summer, so now Nola is out of school, which means I get to shuttle her around during the day too, full time. And I think we have something up here. It says your name, Chris Vatera and Jay McMullen. Chris and Jay are having that's last week? Okay, it was just up here. So this is from last week? Okay, thank you, Molly. All right. Do I turn this off or do you guys turn this off?
Don't turn it off.
Don't turn it off, okay. All right. Now it's time for the offering. We take an offering each week to sustain this space that we call home and to support the work of our fellowship. Please give generously as you are able. The offertory music is Forever Young by Bob Dylan. We are very grateful to our own Frank Dunaway for sharing this song with us today. The offering will now be gratefully received, and we thank you so much.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. May you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young.
We close our sacred time together when we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the chalice inside of our hearts, which serves as a beacon of hope, emboldened by its blaze. We are reminded that our strength as prophetic and powerful people is found when we come together at San Gabriel, which is here in Georgetown to stay, no matter what may come our way.
And now we invite you all to come and have coffee and conversation. We'll see you in there.